Hey everybody, it's the Grumpy Meeple again, and today I'm coming to you with what I'm hoping will be an interesting video for y'all, maybe kind of an interesting proposition, and that is, I've mentioned it I think in other videos, but I've been thinking about doing a very basic, like, beginner's guide to painting miniatures. And I mean, like, you've literally never picked up a can of primer before. You don't own an airbrush. You don't, which even I don't have an airbrush. You don't have any, hobby paints, but maybe you got your copy of Zombicide 2nd edition in recently, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? These are really cool miniatures. I would like to paint them, but I just don't know where to get started. There are a lot of painting tutorials on YouTube, but, I always find that they're hosted by or delivered by these, like, master painters, and it just always comes through to me that they'll talk about these things and they just make it look so easy, and they'll talk about things like edge highlighting or OSL kind of lighting, and again it's like, or even dry brushing, and it's just second nature to them, and so I don't think they speak truly to, like, I am brand new at painting and maybe a little nervous about it. I don't want to screw my miniatures up. I don't know why you prime your miniatures. I don't know what kind of varnish to get. Do I want a gloss varnish or a matte varnish? What is basing? Like really basic stuff. And I've been painting miniatures for a little while now, and I'm not very good. That's why I'm not making a video about what an awesome painter I am. What I'm making is a video about, it's for everybody else. It's for the person who has never even tried to paint before. And with Zombicide 2nd edition showing up and, destined to be a big hit, I think, it occurred to me that this was kind of a unique opportunity to highlight a game that a lot of people are probably going to get into their hands and would probably like to paint. And so let me show you what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is a very basic, I don't even use the word paint, you would put it in air quotes, a very basic paint job where all you're doing is trying to bring out the detail in the miniature. You're not really even adding color necessarily. The reason I came across this style of painting is because I've had games in the past like Shadows of Brimstone. I have hundreds of Shadows of Brimstone miniatures. I will never paint them all. And I don't like playing with partially painted sets. And Shadows of Brimstone is very modular, so you don't have to add something to the game when you buy it, which means I end up buying a lot of stuff and it doesn't hit the table because it's not painted. And so it just sits there. Stuff like Zombicide, I've never even tried because there are just so many, even in just a core box, there are so many zombies. And there are people who can paint really well, really fast, and do an amazing job. I just am not one of those people. I can paint like basic tabletop quality if I spend 4 hours on a single miniature, So what I wanted to do was find a way to really easily get something onto these miniatures so that they are not bare plastic, and do it in a way that's kind of repeatable and scalable so that you could do it with 100 miniatures, and it might not even necessarily take all that much longer than, it would have taken me to do one fatty to detail, basically. So let's do a quick comparison. Here is a fatty from the core box, untouched, basically. Okay. So This is just bare plastic. And the general rule of thumb with painting for hobbyists is that anything is better than bare plastic. And so I'm literally leaning into that and saying, okay, let's see if that's actually true. Let's see if there are people out there who would love to be able to just get to that point. So there's your fatty with just the bare plastic. Here's one with a very, very minimal amount of effort put into it. And I think you can see that there's a lot more detail popping off of this guy. You know, like, did you notice the rip in his kind of pants here that's exposing his giant belly? I didn't notice that in this version of the miniature when I was just holding it. You can kind of see it now, but, you know, his face is much, much more detailed. You can see his belt buckle. It just, you look at his pants, you know, you can see his little pockets and stuff in his belt. And is this an incredible miniature? No. Is it better than this? Yes. Is it a huge amount of effort or skill required to get to this? No. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my Zombicide 2nd edition set in this manner. And I'm just going to tape it. And if people find it useful, that'll be awesome, you know. And if not, and if people just want to kind of crap on me in the comments about how, you know, quick shade is not paint or something like that, I get it. Like, you know, I have miniatures that I paint for real. It's just these Zombicide miniatures were never going to be those miniatures. And so it was either do this or do nothing with them. And there are some actual valid reasons to paint Zombicide. You know, the runners are a good example. Oftentimes it's hard to pick them out of a crowd. But if you paint them up, first of all, it's just much clearer that they are runners because you can just see that they're running. And, you know, like, look at the details in this guy, like his legs and all the business that's going on there and his back, his muscles and everything. It really does pop compared to this. And then you've got your walker. You know. Look at the back. Look at his jacket. And then look at the unpainted version. You know, can you even see those kind of plates on his jacket? It's tough. So, and then I do just a tiny little bit of basing. I basically just crap some sand onto their base and paint it with one coat and then like a little dry brush, just so that it kind of looks kind of like asphalt. I know that this isn't, you know, like people will paint these bases and they'll paint like street lines on them. I'm not doing that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the skill for that. And this isn't the game for that. I paint Shadows of Brimstone to a little higher quality, but that's a game that I've essentially devoted, you know, I'm committed to devoting a big chunk of my life to, you know, going forward. I love Zombicide, but, you know, it just, these miniatures don't quite call out for that, in my opinion. And there are just too many of them and too many of the same miniatures. You don't even have to own a decent brush to do this, honestly. It's just primer. I use a very specific primer that I played around with a bunch of different colors and stuff because I knew I wanted to kind of paint Zombicide like this when it came. Settled on a particular primer. So you just spray it on there. I'll show you how to do that and how far away to hold the can and all that stuff if you've never done it before. Then you just slap some quick shade dark tone on there. Make sure you don't have too much on your brush and spread it out as evenly as possible. Don't let it pool up. That's where the darkness in the recesses of the model, like in his mouth and his facial kind of crags and stuff there. That's where the quick shade is pooling in there and pulling that out. You just slap some quick shade on there, little glue on the base, some sand, this is literally from my kids' playpen, you know, their sandbox. I've had that for like 2 years. That same thing as sand. I just keep using it. And then, you know, you can paint the ring, the base ring if you want. I just painted them all kind of like a slightly different color gray, basically, so that there was a little differentiation between the three. So that's the idea. If that sounds interesting, go ahead and comment and just let me know. I'm probably going to tape this either way, because either way I'm going to be sitting around doing this, and somebody at some point might find this useful, and I have a YouTube channel now, so I might as well capture it. So that's all I have for now. This is the Grumpy Meeple signing off, and I will talk to you all later.